to Gems and Java Home Edition. We are thrilled that you're joining us this afternoon. We are going to be entertained and inspired, and together we're going to make a big difference in the lives of women and children in Ethiopia. Listen, events like this are not possible without amazing sponsors, and ours are exceptional. They're listed on our website, on our social media channels, and you will see their names during the event. So please support these businesses whenever you can. We are also very grateful to be able to support 7 life-changing projects in Ethiopia through Dev Exchange International. If you're donating online, you'll be directed to their website in order to complete your donation this afternoon. My name is Tracy Dunham, and I am a proud volunteer and donor of Mothers with a Heart for Ethiopia, which is 100% volunteer-led and driven. As part of our communications team for our organization, it is my pleasure to be coming to you live this afternoon from my living room and to be with you for the next hour and 15 minutes of Gems and Java Home Edition. Today's production was created and produced with so much love. There is no other way to say it. What you will see has been put together by our volunteers and 2 incredibly talented and generous men who have given of their time and talent at a very small cost to make it possible to produce what you will see on a shoestring budget. Our volunteer-led and driven organization is committed to keeping our costs so very low so that your funds can go to making the biggest difference possible in Ethiopia. We would love it if right now, while you're watching this, thanks for being here, click that share button on the Facebook Live window. Let every one of your Facebook friends know that you are watching. It would be so great to see that. So also, what are you doing right now? Take a picture of where you're watching from or what snacks you put together or what's going on at your place and share that photo on our social media. Tag us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. We're at moms4 Ethiopia on all of our social channels. So go ahead as you're doing that. Also, let's get the chat going as you watch. Make comments, ask questions, interact with everyone else watching. Listen, we may not be together physically, but we're going to feel the love and compassion of everyone at home watching. So get those comments going, say hi, and let's get into it this afternoon. We're going to start now with a reminder that when we come together, we have the power to make a big difference. Certainly, we'll be making an impact in the lives of women and children in Ethiopia through our donations, but it's not just that, because I know that for me, I have been personally changed by being a part of this work and with the others and getting to know these powerful stories of the people involved in these projects and being inspired by their strength when they empower and lift one another up. Jen Todd, the founder of Shift Collective, is going to share a story to remind all of us that there is strength in our unity this afternoon. Then you're going to hear one of my favorite songs from the musical Wicked that reminds me how much I've been changed by being a part of this beautiful organization.
I have a great story that I want to share with you today. It illustrates the fact that we as females have the ability to fiercely support and protect one another. In 2019, I had the privilege of witnessing the amazing Jen Hatmaker share this very same story from the stage at an event I attended, and I want to pass it along. It ignited something so beautiful inside of me. This is a story about female elephants. In the wild, when an elephant is giving birth, all of the other females in the herd back around her in formation. They close the delivering mama in so tightly that she can't be seen in the middle. They then stomp and kick up soil and dirt, throwing potential attackers off scent. They surround the mama and the incoming baby in protection, sending a clear signal to predators that if they want to attack their sister while she's vulnerable, they're gonna have to get through 40 tons of female aggression first. When the baby is delivered, the sister elephants do 2 things. They kick sand over the newborn to protect its fragile skin from the sun, and then they all start trumpeting. A female celebration of new life, of sisterhood, of something beautiful being born into a harsh, wild world, despite enemies and attackers and predators and odds. Scientists tell us this: female elephants only take this formation in 2 cases. When under the potential threat of predators like lions, or during the birth of a new elephant. This is what we do. When our sisters are vulnerable, when they are giving birth to new life, to new ideas, to new ventures, when they are seeking new spaces, when they need their people to surround them so they can create and deliver and heal and recover, we get in formation. We close ranks and we literally have one another's backs. If you want to mess with our sister, you're going to have to get through us first. And when the delivery comes, when new life emerges, and when the healing finally begins, when the night is over and our sister is ready to rise back up, we sound our trumpets because we stuck it through together. We celebrate and we give thanks.
I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them, and we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because I knew you. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. I would say that I've been changed for the better, and because I knew you, I have been changed for good. It may well be that we will never meet again in this lifetime, so let me say before we part, so much of me is made from what I learned from you, and you'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend. Like a ship blown from its moorings by the wind of the sea, like a seed dropped by a skybird in the distant wood. I would say that I've been changed for the better, and because I knew you, I have been changed like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. I would say that I've been changed for the better, and I do believe I have been changed for the better, because I knew you, because I knew you, I have been changed for good.
Shelley Green, our founder, will be sharing 3 people's real-life stories with us. Prolapsed uterus is a very real and significant health problem for women in Ethiopia and is one of the 7 projects we support. Shelley and our volunteers have met with and heard the life stories of many, many women who have had prolapsed uterus. The impact of having a prolapsed uterus goes beyond what we could imagine. Have a listen to this.
When I first heard of Frey, her story was very common to other women we had met before. Frey was so poor, she could not afford a medical examination, let alone surgery. Dr. Mark told me that Frey had the worst case of prolapsed uterus he had ever seen. It was fully outside her body and had many deep ulcers. He said it took both he and Dr. Nate to push the uterus inside her body and insert a pessary to help keep her uterus in place until the ulcers were healed and she could have surgery. When Dr. Mark spoke with Frey after the procedure, he noticed she was sitting only on one hip. And when he told her she could sit normally, she was shocked, as she had not been able to sit properly for years. With apprehension and then with sheer delight, she shifted her weight very, very carefully until she was sitting completely on her backside. I thought of all the realities Frey would have faced with the uterus completely outside of her body. I will never forget the time a woman shared with us that when she would squat to go to the bathroom, her uterus would hit the ground. This undoubtedly would be what Frey experienced every day, along with so many other very difficult, painful, and shameful realities. It took about 2 months for Frey to heal to the point she could have the surgery, and Dr. Mark let me know that it had gone well. Frey never left my mind. When I returned to Ethiopia a few months later, we made arrangements to see Frey. We met at a hotel on our way to the capital city after leaving Soto. The pool where families and children were swimming caught Frey's eye, and she went directly to the fence surrounding the pool and stood looking at the children swimming. She was laughing with delight. I could tell by her face that this was the first time Frey had ever seen a pool. She watched in wonderment. And as I watched her, I was moved emotionally, thinking, here's a woman who has lived through such hardship, such unthinkable pain, shame, and disadvantage because of her prolapsed uterus and abject poverty. Yet she had the biggest smile on her face. I went back and forth in my mind and my heart between happiness that she was so happy and sadness that she and her children had never seen or experienced a pool before. Something I take for granted here in Canada. Frey didn't appear to be anything but joyful. She didn't seem angry, resentful, or jealous of the people having such a good time in the pool. She was simply delighted to see the children and adults having such a good time. As I watched her, I thought, how many women having gone through what she has gone through would be joyful, truly joyful at seeing others' great fortune? As we ate together, as I watched Frey enjoy her meal, I was reminded of how unfairly blessed I am in my life here in Canada. Frey sat before me, a woman no less deserving, no less important than myself, enjoying a first experience in a restaurant. The difference between Frey and myself? Where we were born. Frey didn't choose, and I didn't choose where we were born. And yet, because of that reality, my life is vastly different from Frey's. Frey's first husband left her with 3 children to fend on her own. When she remarried, she had 2 children with her second husband. He's an alcoholic and was cruel to the children from her first husband. Her 3 oldest went to live with her parents in the country to be removed from the violence they were experiencing. Frey's parents are very poor, so poor the children are not able to attend school. Of the choices Frey had for her oldest 3, going to live with grandparents who could not properly provide for them was the better choice than living with a stepdad who was violent and cruel. Imagine being in a situation where you're forced to be separated from your children. Frey's second husband abused her. When her uterus first prolapsed, her husband would not take her to the hospital. She said her prolapse became much worse when he pushed her down and she hit her back on a rock. He drank and would be away for weeks at a time, returning drunk, and would beat her. Frey was left to try and provide for her children with no support from her husband. She hired herself out as a daily laborer, making injera, washing clothing, and cleaning. And although this was not enough for her and her children to experience any degree of comfort, she was able to feed her children. Her uterus had become ulcerated after living with it outside of her body for more than 4 years. She had a very bad smell. It didn't matter if she washed. She smelled because of the prolapse and ulcers. One day when she went to work, like always, she took her 2 children with her. The owner of the home said to Frey, "You smell very bad. You must have a dead rat in your dress." The woman put her hand up Frey's dress to find the rat. Frey's children and Frey were all crying in total embarrassment and shame. The lady pushed Frey and her children out of her house, saying she could not have anyone working in her home that smelled like she had a dead rat living inside her. No one would allow Frey to come into their homes because of her smell. She had been living in the kitchen of the home she worked in with her children, and now she and her children were homeless. She had to beg for money to feed her children. As Frey was sharing about the severe pain she lived with and the shame and embarrassment she had experienced when people would tell her she smelled, she cried. She didn't cry when she spoke of the abuse she had endured by her husband, but the pain and suffering she experienced for years because of her prolapse was unbearable. Having no way to pay for rent, Frey and her children had started living in an abandoned small shelter. When the government found out she was living in the shelter that belonged to them, she was told to get out. Frey went to the government office and tried to get the attention of officials. She went back day after day and sat in the courtyard until one day an official asked her what she was doing. She told her story about her prolapse, that no one would hire her because she had such a terrible smell, and that her 2 children only had her. Her sheer determination and persistence paid off, and she was allowed to live in the shelter with her children. When her husband heard that Frey had a home to live in, he came back. She told him she had had surgery and was human again. She felt human again. She told him to leave and not come back. Imagine the life she had lived, and she kept going. She kept fighting so she could provide for her children. An organization became aware of Frey and her children and started to provide food support, bedding, clothing, and school supplies. It was this organization that connected with us to ask if we could pay for her surgery. Today, thanks to your generosity, Frey is prolapse-free. She is able to work again and has the support of the organization that is providing supplies for her and her children. I know she thinks that we changed her life through surgery and that she sees us as being important, but what she can never know is that she changed my life. Through hearing her story, through seeing her persistence and determination to provide for her children, that through all of her absolute hardship, she still felt joy, complete joy for others' blessings. Thank you, Frey, for teaching me life lessons I will never forget.
Our donors, you, have made it possible for Frey and 359 other women to feel human again, to be able to return to their lives, support themselves and their children, and to have hope. Dr. Nate Ross is one of our project partners who restores the dignity of women suffering with prolapsed uterus. Along with Dr. Mark Carnes, he brings hope and restores joy to so many lives.
Yeah, so I absolutely love being here, being able to help the patients that we can help, and seeing the smiles on their faces and seeing the outcomes that we have is so rewarding. I love teaching our African partners. I love teaching our midwives and our nurses, and then the residents that we have there learning how to do general surgery. Really making an impact that will last after I'm gone is extremely rewarding to me.
አሁን ከሰው በታች ነበርኩ ከሰው እኩል ሆኛለሁ ገምቼ ነበር ምን ያስለሻል ብለው ሸቶ ነበር እየሸተተ ይስሩ ነበር አሁን ከፍተኛ ምስጋና ይቻላል
Yeah. She said she feels very, very human after she got the treatment, and now she has a hope for the future. And after she got the treatment, she feels very equal with other humans because of the treatment. Because she used to like smell, and she was not like close to the people because of the smell she had. And now after the treatment, she feels very confident and human. And she said, "Thank you very much for your donation, for your support. Thank you."
We are so very thankful to Dr. Nate and Dr. Mark for all the surgeries they perform, to all of our project partners. We're so very blessed to know them and to work with them. Thanks for all the chat that you're putting in, the comments. Let us know what's inspiring, what's touching your heart, what's meaningful to you as you're watching this afternoon. We'd love to read those things. Megan and Lisa are two of our volunteers and donors who have had the opportunity to travel to Ethiopia with Shelly and see the projects we support firsthand. Listen to what they saw and learned and experienced at our RAPS project and another project as they share this afternoon.
I think one of the greatest things about going to Ethiopia is having the chance to sit down with some of our project partners and people doing the work on the ground. I remember having a really nice coffee and tea with the women who work at the RAPS project. They're making those washable, reusable, affordable pads and going to school at the same time. You were even up on top of the van packing RAPS kits, strapping them down to our van at one point. Lisa, what struck you about that project?
I think the potential that project has to affect so many women, not just the women in the workshop. And that was really incredible, being able to be there and see the operation, see the sewing machine, see the huge bolts of fabric that they're using, sitting down with the women, hearing their stories, but seeing the impact that employment and income and pride has on these women, and how it empowers them to envision a future for themselves and for their families. But they also realize the value of the product they're making, because these wraps are going to classrooms, going to schools, being distributed to girls who without the wraps would otherwise be missing a lot of school every month. And we heard stories about how some girls might be using leaves and grass when they have their period, but so often they're just staying home. And so the girls that receive the wraps have a whole bright future ahead of them, because they can stay in school, they can pursue their education, they won't fall behind, and they can dream about supporting themselves and their family with a career. So the women in the workshop, yes, they're earning employment, or they're earning income for themselves, but they're having such an effect on the young girls who are going to be the recipients of these pads.
You're so right. I mean, it's both the girls who are receiving the pads and the workers who, that potential is already there. It's just sort of that missing link, right? Of course, we all deserve access to those products during our periods, and for the women who work there. I mean, it's hard to get through life without some kind of employment, right? And I remember talking to Twabech, who was only 22 years old, and she was sharing a little more about her story and what that job did for her, and how she was supporting her mom who couldn't work, her 3 little brothers who, need food and workbooks for school and all of that. And it was amazing just to see, that ripple, right? Just one job for Twabech was supporting an entire family. And as you say, the pads she was making were going to young women who have such bright futures ahead of them too. And the same sort of situation strikes me with the boys at our group home, right? I mean, so much potential in each of them, but if you're in a situation where you don't have the opportunity to go to school, or you don't have a safe place to sleep or learn, it's hard to be really seizing that, right? I mean, you're just focused on survival, and just the dramatic change for those boys being in the group home now, and all of them want to give back. I mean, they want to serve their communities, their neighborhoods, volunteer positions. Shelly's son Talahun even has his own organization now. It's just amazing how you see that turn around, right? The funds that are changing their lives are in turn changing, communities or neighborhoods, and they really want to be the change makers, right? They're doing all the work. We're just providing the funds.
Yeah. The funds that we're supplying, they're really fostering leadership in Ethiopia.
And we are just pumped, because we absolutely know that we're making a difference, and we're giving these girls hope. We're giving them hope for the future. We are right in line with what the Ethiopian government is actually doing. They are changing education too in this country, and making it more possible for young rural students to get an education. And to me, that's really exciting also, that we're working right alongside the Ethiopian government. It's like our visions are paralleling each other, and that's fun to see that happen. I am so geeked to go out into this Demote Galley again and see that we're making a difference. Because I know we're making a difference, but I get to see it. I'm going to hear it this time, so I'm really excited. Thank you for what you guys are doing, because without you, I don't think this would have happened. Come on, you can do it. All right. Then you have to take a very difficult examination in grade 10. And that examination is in English. So you have to really study hard. But I know you can do it. And that means grade 11. Do you want to do grade 11? Okay.
I'm quite involved here in our community, but I know the need expands much farther than what we have here in Oxford County, and was really drawn to this organization, and I've been a part of it for a number of years now. And I remember the first time I saw one of the videos, it was some young women and some women that were receiving the wraps, which are the washable, reusable, absorbent pads that we provide. And these women were dancing and they were singing and they were celebrating because they received these products, and it's something that we just go to the store and pick up when we need it. And here are these women that are dancing and celebrating like they've just won the lottery because they received these wraps from us. And I remember the tears going down my cheek at the time and thinking how deeply this touched me. And I knew right then that the impact that we have there is so incredibly great, and the gratitude is so deep from these women and these children. Thinking about that video today, I still get goosebumps, and it's a big part of the reason why I continue to be a part of Mothers with a Heart for Ethiopia, because I know just how incredibly far our work is going there.
I love some of these comments that I'm seeing on our Facebook Live chat. Ashley says, the ripple effect is so powerful. Incredibly happy we're able to support. We're so grateful for all of you who are supporting us this afternoon and continue to donate and volunteer. Living on the streets in Ethiopia is a reality for thousands and thousands of children. 3 of the projects we support work to support children living on the streets. Shelley's going to share with us another real-life story that is heartbreaking, incredible, and shines with love and hope.
Imagine being 7 years old. Your father has left the family, your mother has just died, and there is no one to care for you. Now imagine having to walk away from the only home you have known to go and live on the streets at the age of 7. I first met Tesfa in October 2019 after we were told that 3 of the girls on the Girls Empowered Through Soccer teams we support were living at his shelter. Tesfa invited us to come and meet him and to see the shelter he manages as a volunteer for 90 children. He showed us and explained the systems he uses to care for the children, to efficiently run the shelter, and how he has developed local support to provide food, clothing, school supplies, and funding to care for these children. We were blown away. The shelter was very clean, well organized. The children were obviously happy and healthy. And this was all being done by a 28-year-old volunteer who developed a local model of support that was not only brilliant, it is completely uncommon in Ethiopia. Tesfa didn't once boast about his accomplishments. He sat and very humbly told us of how he had developed the model of care for these 90 children, and how he was working to develop a model of local support to provide to pregnant women living in abject poverty. Tesfa is a visionary, an entrepreneur in his paid work, a selfless, hardworking man who knows all too well of the realities of children living on the streets. Tesfa was that 7-year-old child I asked you to imagine being. He shared with us about his life on the streets. I know through speaking with other children and my son Talahun, who lives in Ethiopia, who also lived on the streets, that Tesfa would have had to beg for food. He would have been beaten many times for asking for food. He would have gone days without anything to eat or drink. He would have been cold at night and wet and cold during the rainy season. And bathing and washing the clothing he had would be very infrequent. Tesfa lived without the loving care of guidance of a parent, any adult. Even from a young age, Tesfa found a way to make a bit of money living on the streets, and he paid for not only his school supplies, but for other children's school supplies who were living on the streets. He knew from a very young age he needed an education. He was intelligent and showed determination, creativity, generosity, and compassion, even when he had nothing himself. He lived on the streets from the time he was 7 until he was 18. When he was in grade 8, the national exams were within days when the police gathered up all the people living on the streets and put them in jail to clean up the streets while officials visited. Tesfa was one of the children in jail. He had studied and worked so hard to prepare for the national exams, and now he would miss them. He begged a guard to let him out for the day, and he promised and promised and promised he would return if only the guard would let him out for the day so he could write the national exam. Tesfa cried when he shared this part of his life. Imagine you have faced the trauma of losing your parents. You've been forced to live on the streets on your own for years. You have survived and endured, and you have found a way to get an education and do well against all odds to then be thrown in jail because of circumstances completely out of your control. He was remembering the desperation he felt, the complete lack of justice in the situation, and the total and utter loss of all control of his life and welfare. The guard let him out. He went to school and wrote his exam and returned to jail that night. Tesfa, knowing the dangers, the desperation, the loneliness and hardship of living on the streets, didn't want other children to experience the same reality he lived. Children from many different circumstances, all out of their control, have come to live in Tesfa's shelter. A young girl at the age of 2 was found alone in the local market, and when the police could not find her family, they brought her to Tesfa's shelter. Tesfa has given her his last name, and all of the children are assured every day, not only in words but in actions, that they have a family and a home to come back to for the rest of their lives. When I went back to Ethiopia in February and visited the shelter, I came loaded with an outfit for every child and many games and activities for the children. You, our donors, made that possible. When we had been there in October, one of the things the shelter lacked was games and activities. I didn't know then that those games and activities would be so important during COVID times when the children would not be in school and would be restricted in their activities. We'd committed to providing funds to pay for the care of the 3 girls living in Tesfa's shelter who were on the soccer teams we support. Tesfa never asked for money. In fact, he was very reserved when we asked how much we should provide for the care of those girls. At the beginning of COVID, I received a message from Tesfa saying that the hotels and restaurants that had provided food were closed and that the businesses who had also provided other services and money were closed as well. Tesfa had no means of providing for the children. Imagine having the responsibility for the care of 90 children. 90 children you care for and love, and not knowing how you will possibly provide for them. Our organization aims to support projects that are culturally sensitive. Tesfa is the perfect example of a person who understands the culture, the realities the children have faced, the realities they will face as adults, and provides care in a way that appropriately provides for today and prepares the children for the future. Tesfa has the ability, skills, and demonstrated success to manage the shelter. What Tesfa needs is money. A year of support will be $60,000 to provide for the 90 children. Our donors have made it possible to send $38,000 to support children since COVID. A few weeks ago, 13 of the children were in the hospital with COVID. Within 48 hours, our donors gave $1,720, which was just $70 short of the cost of the hospital stay, medications, PPE, and sanitizing supplies. The children, thankfully, have all recovered and are well. When our board of directors decided at the beginning of COVID to support Tesfa's shelter and the 90 children fully, this is the message he sent back in response. I don't have any words to express my feeling. I am so thankful. You have no idea what it means for us. It's a miracle. Thanks be to God for this miracle. Thanks to Mothers with the Heart for Ethiopia. I am so happy and so grateful, and the children are thankful. God bless you all. I have told the children the amazing news, and they are celebrating with dancing and singing.
We would like to thank you, Mother's Heart for Ethiopia, for being with us in this difficult time. You are bringing light to our life. You make us happy, joyful, and thankful. God bless you, work, life, and dreams since you bless us by showing that you are with us. Shelly, her friends, and co-workers, we love you more. You make our life more easier. Thank you. Again, we are praying for God to bless you and protect you, to make us more happier. Thank you for being with our Father Tesfa. God bless you. God bless the universe.
When you're down in trouble and you need a helping hand, and nothing, oh nothing is going right. Close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest night. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running for to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you gotta do is call, and I'll be there, yeah. You got a friend. Oh, you got a friend. If the sky above you should turn dark and full of clouds, that old north wind should begin to blow. Keep your head together now. Oh, and call my name out loud. And soon I'll be knocking upon your door. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, oh, I'll come running to see you again. Oh, winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you gotta do is call, and I'll be there, yeah. You got a friend. Oh, you got a friend. Hey, ain't it good to know that you got a friend when people can be so cold? take your soul if you let them. Don't you let them. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Oh, winter, spring, summer, fall, all you gotta do is call, and I'll be there, yeah. You got a friend. Oh, you got a friend. Ain't it good to know that you got a friend? Oh, you got a friend.
I decided to become a donor of Mothers with a Heart for Ethiopia after attending one of the Gems and Java events. It was, I think, maybe the second event. And I just remember being mesmerized, almost paralyzed by the depths of the stories that Shelley brought back to us from her trips to Ethiopia. And just, my heart was just torn wide open by the amount of suffering that she shared with us, and really, really inspired me to imagine that I could maybe do something to help, do something in a meaningful way to help. The recent pandemic really brought home for me how immediate the needs are, because we received a video feed from one of the orphanages in Ethiopia, which showed a real live need for the basics, human food. And perhaps for the first time in my life, when the pandemic started, I had maybe the inklings of what food scarcity might feel like, because everyone was panicking and buying toilet paper. That was our real live panic. And maybe for the first time ever, I felt what food shortages might feel like. And then I realized this is what they live with all the time in Ethiopia. It's real to them all the time, and I only had a wee small inkling of how that felt. So that story really inspired me to say, I am in this full-fledged. I do not want children going hungry. If there's anything I can do to stop that.
When the government announced in March that schools remain closed after March break because of COVID, the panic started, and you saw lines out of the grocery store, you saw empty shelves, things a Canadian, or in my case, a German in Canada, never experienced before. I'm a mother of 3 children, and that was the first time in my life that I was afraid not be able to provide for them. I was certain that we would have food, but I was just afraid I wouldn't be able to give them what they're used to and things they like. And that made me think about countries where people battle hunger every day and mothers battle not be able to feed their children every day. I find it's very overwhelming to find an organization where you can donate to, especially the idea of how much can one person do and how much does my donation actually help, and how much of the resources I give actually goes to the people in need. And I have been to Gems and Java, and listen to great presentations about the work Mothers with a Heart for Ethiopia do, and I felt very comfortable that this is an organization I would want to work with. I always want to change the world. Obviously, I'm just one person, so I can't, but I hope that my contribution helps to change someone's world. And I think that is what everybody should do.
Thank you, Liz and Robin and Patty and Ramona, for adding your voices and adding your stories to our program this afternoon. We're so thankful to you. Hey, if you're watching with us, keep sharing what is meaningful and impactful. We love reading those things, and it's so helpful to us and inspiring to us to hear what's inspiring to you. I know that for me, I love that video of Allison, our project partner for RAPS, asking all that classroom of girls who wants to go on to grade 11, who wants to keep going, and who wants to, like, just dreaming for their future, and they're clapping and they're so excited. I love that. Every time I watch it, I love it more than the time before. That's me. I see here on our live stream, Matt says, powerful stories. I'm not crying, you're crying. Sure, Matt, whatever you say. Elaine says, what an amazing presentation we watched last night, and we're very moved. We saw the difference our donations were making in so many lives. Thank you to everyone who makes this happen. Thank you for watching again, Elaine. That's so great. Elaine was on our socials today also with the amazing snacks that she made last night, so you may want to check that out. And Ashley says, Tesfa is my hero. Ashley, we feel the same way. Tesfa is such an amazing person. So glad to be able to tell his story and support the work that he's doing in Ethiopia. Our volunteers who have traveled to Ethiopia have heard so many heartbreaking and inspiring stories of real lives. They come back even more committed to our organization's work because they have seen firsthand the difference that your funds and their funds are making. When Megan and Lisa were in Ethiopia, they also had the chance to talk about 2 more of our projects and how they were impacted by them. Listen with me as they talk about Girls Gotta Run and Beside You.
Well, Megan, last October, we were roommates for a few nights at the guest house on the campus of Busayu, one of the projects that we support. A remarkable time. Just loved it, have so many wonderful memories. But one of the most poignant was the day that we did a fun fair at Busayu. And we all took part, we all did different activities. My activity happened to be face painting, which was something I had never done, so a new experience. And each one of the children lined up to wait for their turn to have usually the maple leaf painted on both of their cheeks. And the first few kind of got into the groove, and then I started to feel more comfortable. And then I noticed that the children were putting their hands on my arm or my leg just to touch me, to feel connected. So I started to put my hand on the back of their head or around their shoulders to kind of hold them still while I was administering the paint. And when I was finished, it was time for them to move on because there was a long line of other children waiting and they didn't want to go. They would just continue to hold on to me and stare in my eyes and smile. And I could tell that that physical touch, that experience of being with somebody, was so important and so valuable to those kids. And I think too about the bears that we distributed in the pavilion one afternoon. Every single child got a bear, one of those wonderful bears that our volunteers knit. And they hugged them, they clasped them so close to them. And again, that power of touch, of feeling connected.
And one thing I always walk away with when we visit Busayu is that impact of, one person, like a mentor, a teacher, someone who really believes in you. And I think for those children who have come off the street into this very regimented program, trying to be rehabilitated with their family, you see the power of investing in their lives. Marcella and Busayu, the project leads there, are so deeply invested in each one of those children's lives and can change the entire course of their life. And at Girls Gotta Run, I always think the same thing, going back several years in a row and talking to those young women, they're being empowered through the sport of running, but the program also, of course, pays for their uniforms, their school lunch, offers life skills classes, and you just see the way that they're interacting, I think, with their teachers, their running coaches, even their own peers. And it just seems like they're really inspired and empowered, and they understand a little bit more that they can dream about what they could do with their own future lives. And I remember one young woman, Her name was Bethlehem, and she told me her biggest takeaway and her biggest learning was that women are equal to men. And that was, something she had said she learned through the program. Before, maybe you have an unsupportive community or family, but these women are becoming change makers. And these young women, they tell me about how they want to become a doctor, come back and provide medical care to the community, or, how they want to become an engineer or politician or a journalist and, provide that in their country. It's just amazing how that investment of one, even just one adult in your life, provides them with that license to dream. I think that's so amazing and incredible that, the financial support from our donors can help close that link to provide that opportunity, that empowerment.
Yeah, absolutely. The impact of the dollars that get sent to fund a project is so much more than simply funding the project. It's making such a tremendous, profound difference in so many lives.
Absolutely. One child or one woman, but an entire family, an entire community. It's something really special.
I emigrated from Scotland when I was 21. I always felt fortunate to live here in Canada. In 2017 and again in 2018, I visited our projects in Ethiopia as part of the team from Mothers. That trip impacted my life hugely. I expected to witness despair, and certainly did see that in the lives of some of the street children. But overwhelmingly, I experienced joy and hope and connection in the children in our projects. I returned home with a deeper sense of gratitude for my life in Canada. Ethiopia is often with me. When I brush my teeth in the morning, with the lovely fresh water from the tap, I can see the children in the countryside waving at me and smiling as they take their water home to their families in jerry cans. Again, I feel thankful. I share my time and my donations with Mothers with a Heart for Ethiopia as an expression of that gratitude.
Lisa and Megan shared with us the importance, the value, and the impact of investing in children's lives. We have seen firsthand and heard firsthand the difference that your donations make in providing not only the basic needs, but also education, guidance, a sense of belonging, and most importantly, love. Shelly's going to tell you the story of a young girl who, through your donations, not only has just the basics, she also has love.
For Ruth, living in Tesfa's shelter and being a member on one of the girls empowered through soccer teams means belonging, friendships, security, safety from harm, education, a family, and a hope for the future. The journey to arrive at Tesfa's shelter had been a long and difficult road for this 12-year-old. Ruth was only 5 when her stepfather's much older daughter asked to have Ruth come and live with her so she could help care for her home and her children. At 5, Ruth was expected to clean, to prepare food, to wash the clothing, and to help care for the children. The expectations Ruth faced were, of course, completely unrealistic. And when she didn't meet the expectations, the consequences were severe. Ruth was not fed regularly, but was expected to do a lot of work. One night, very late after Ruth had been sleeping for hours, she was awakened with the demand to make food. She was blamed for using too much oil. As a punishment, her stepsister heated a knife and burned Ruth's hands and feet. Ruth showed me her scars. Another time, when Ruth was not meeting up to her stepsister's expectations, Ruth was lifted up by her 2 feet and was lowered down into the outhouse opening. Ruth was crying so loudly, the neighbor came and interrupted the abuse. When the neighbor saw the burns on Ruth's hands and feet, she demanded to know the truth. And although Ruth first lied out of fear, the neighbor persisted, and Ruth finally told the truth. The neighbor took Ruth to the police, and Ruth told the truth of what had happened. Ruth's stepsister was put in jail for 2 years. The police took Ruth to an orphanage to live. As Ruth told me these accounts of her young life, she had tears streaming down her face. Ruth said that after living in the orphanage for 5 years, a place she had made many friends, did well in school, and where she felt safe, it was closing, and the manager was trying to find places for all of the children to go and live. Some of the children were reunited with family, but for the children who did not have family, or in Ruth's case, a family who would be safe to return to, there was another orphanage close by, but because it was a different faith than Ruth's faith, the manager kept looking for a place for Ruth. The manager found Tesfa's shelter, where all the children are welcome and encouraged to practice their own religion. Ruth was a good soccer player, and when Tesfa told the manager there was a soccer team Ruth could join, this was another reason Tesfa's shelter was a great fit for Ruth. At the age of 11, Ruth left what was familiar and safe to her and traveled many miles to go and live at a place that was different and unfamiliar, the second orphanage she would call home in her young life. Ruth is very smart and has ranked at the top of her class ever since she arrived at Tesfa's shelter. When we first met Ruth, she shocked us by welcoming us and speaking in perfect English. She wants to be a doctor so she can care for children living on the streets and others who have been very poor. Ruth knows all too well the suffering that can happen because of abject poverty. She knows too well that girls are not valued in her culture as they should be, and she wants to be a part of positive change. She wants to show love and care to children who have suffered as she has. Ruth said she loves playing on the Girls Empowered Through Soccer team that Mothers with a Heart for Ethiopia supports. She knows that a girls' soccer team is not common in Ethiopia and is so thankful for the chance to play, build her skills, and make really good friends. Ruth told me, as many of the girls on the Girls Empowered Through Soccer teams have also said, that she can go to her female coach anytime, that she will listen, provide guidance and support, and that she will do everything she can to help her. Her coach has taught her so many important life skills and lessons. Ruth said that the relationships she has formed with the other team members and the coaches has really helped to build her confidence. She has learned that girls are powerful and can do anything they want. She has learned that girls are equal to boys. Ruth is very happy living in Tesfa's shelter where she can worship however she wants. She has enough to eat, she has a safe place to sleep and live, and she has sisters and brothers and a father who loves and takes care of her. Our donors, you, have made it possible for Ruth to have what she needs. But most importantly, she has a sense of belonging, a family, coaches, and Tesfa who are teaching her important life lessons and skills and demonstrating that she is loved and valued. When I asked her how she felt about her mother, stepfather, and stepsister now, she said, "I have forgiven them. I want to go back to see them when I am finished with my schooling, so I can show them that even though they treated me very, very badly, I was able to make something very good of my life."
Once I was hopeless, hungry, broken, alone, and had nowhere to go. But since the day I met my mom, Shali, my life started changing. Through her sponsorship, I went from living on the street from the time I was 8 to attending boarding school, where I had shelter, food, education, other guidance, and most importantly, I had a family. Through my mom's support of me, I have completed 2 college diplomas, and I'm a tour guide and translator. When my mom and the volunteers are here in Ethiopia, I'm the translator and have heard the life story of many women and children. Seeing their love for others in actions made me want to do what my mom and the other volunteers do. I learned what I'm doing right now is from my mom and from you all. And you are not only supporting women and children in Ethiopia, but through your good work, you are reflecting God's love and you are making a ripple effect. The volunteer club I started when I was in high school has grown so much. And at this time, I'm working to help others through our ministry, which is called Simple Act of Kindness Ethiopia. And our organization is going to be an official non-profit organization soon. And we will help children living on the streets and assist single moms economically.
Over 12 years ago, my husband and I adopted 3 kids from Ethiopia, so I definitely am a mom with a heart for Ethiopia. When I attended my first Gems in Java 5 years ago, something started in my life that I could not have imagined when I purchased that first ticket. That day, I became a year-round volunteer and donor. Why? Because I heard the kind of presentation that Shelley has been giving this afternoon. The names and stories were different, but the need that she shared was the same. And I heard something in that speech that made me realize that this organization was worth investing in. Mothers with a Heart for Ethiopia took me by surprise when I saw a grassroots, completely volunteer-led and driven group that was intentional about every single thing they did. The focus was so clear: empower women, support children, promote education in Ethiopia. And the project partners were on the ground, meeting needs in culturally relevant ways, and everything in the room was marked with excellence. If you've been there in person, you know what I mean. I tried to just sort of dip my toe into mothers in the beginning, but it was not long before I was one of those volunteers, investing my time and finances into this work year-round, and I still am, and I can't help it. And as you've been listening, you understand why. These are real people whose lives are changed by the investment that I'm making. It's like throwing a stone into the water. Every dollar my husband and I give, every hour I spend means I'm adding weight to that stone. And the ripple gets bigger and stronger and goes further. And I'm inviting you to join me and to make a donation. Add impact to the work that we're doing together with your financial support. Your donation today means that Basayu and Marcella can get even more children off the streets and into the safety and ultimately reunited with their families. Your donation means that more women like Frey, who have suffered with a prolapsed uterus, can for years get their lives back. Your donation today means that girls like Ruth will be educated and empowered to make a difference in the world. Your donation means that young people like Yabi in our group home realize their full potential through education and care and love. Our efforts here today are simple and profound and change real lives. So join me. Call the number on the screen or head over to our website to make your donation right now. Be inspired by your own potential to change lives. Shelley, our founder, often says, we're not called to change the world, but when you respond to the needs of one person, you have changed that person's world. So again, we're grateful to be able to support these projects through DevExchange International. If you're donating online, you'll be directed there to complete your donation. I am so excited about what we're doing here today. Consider this: when ordinary people take action with love, extraordinary things happen. Our donors, you, have shown just that. You have given with love, and you have heard the extraordinary changes that can happen in a person's life in Ethiopia because of your gifts. So join me tonight, and let's continue to make that extraordinary happen.
I never see such kind of things. I want to say thanks a lot to the volunteers, to all people from Canada that work for us, and you show us your love with these incredible things. Buze.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for
things for us.
All things.
Thank you for everything here, and I say thank you and amasaganalo.
Thank you, Shani. Thank you, Mother Earth for Ethiopia. You are the reason of my children's happiness. Thank you so much for supporting us. I say thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. What a great time we've had this afternoon. We're so glad that you've been here. I love what Valerie put, and so the ripples expand in the pond. Talahun has the power to give back now, and he organizes his friends and shows his love for his people. We love you, Talahun. I agree. What an inspiring afternoon it has been. It has been our absolute joy to have you with us today. COVID did not stop us from making a difference in the lives of women and children in Ethiopia. Our volunteers will be answering your calls for the next hour, and the silent auction is still open until 9 p.m. tonight. The link is in the chat for you. So good luck snagging that item you've had your eye on. Also, you can shop for a few items in our Ethiopian marketplace on that same silent auction site, so you can head on over there as soon as we go off the air. Thank you to our great sponsors, our presenting sponsor, Green Private Wealth, our media sponsor, 104.7 Hard FM, our major sponsors, AP Hurley Construction, MTO Metal Products, Shoppers Drug Mart, Siskin's Law Firm, Agile Transportation Services, and all of our Gems and Java level sponsors as well. Big round of applause to Robin Owen for her beautiful music, and to the London Jazz Sextet for keeping the tradition of Gems and Java alive by playing us into the event and now playing us out, as we choose today to be part of the ripple effect and make our generous, life-changing donations right now. Thank you for being with us. We are so glad that you were here. On behalf of our project partners and each woman and child in Ethiopia that we are able to invest in because of your donations, we are so grateful for each one of you. We're glad that you were here. See you later.